All right, hello. Good grand rising. Oop, I was about to say good morning. And the words left my mouth anyway, so it's all right. Okay, so I'm here because I just had like a little epiphany. All right. Your character is probably not fake. Likely you're not feeling safe and the danger is real or fake. I just realized how the hierarchy of needs can actually vary from your setting. Okay. You can show up very differently in different places. And people will say that's fake, right? For instance, when I speak to G, I spaz out. When I speak to a lot of men who are sexually active with me and taking advantage of me, I spaz out. Um, And so you would say to yourself, well, then you can't possibly be self actualized because you aren't functioning in morality, creativity, spontaneity, acceptance, experiencing purpose and meaning and inner potential. You couldn't be feeling that. And that's not who you are because you are currently acting this way with one specific person. Okay. All right. So, um, you are not fake. You're likely not safe. Okay. Um, Depending on what setting you're in, and especially if someone is affecting your physiological needs or your psychological needs, you would then show up in something other than yourself. Now, people be like, don't let people take you out of character, right? I understand. But when the physiological needs are not being met, that is when it's like your default. The only way to stop and allowing someone to make you uh stop coming out of character is removing yourself completely. Okay. It's the physiological needs and only the physiological needs. When someone's like affecting you on the physiological level, okay, not just because somebody can affect you. Hold on, I gotta remember what the classification of these are because I believe it's set up. Dang, there's a specific, so there's 5 levels, but it's also separated into 3 subcategories. And I believe the first is physiological, and then the second tier, when it's split into 3, is psychological. And those are 2 separate things. Okay. Physiological is the most basic and the closest to your, excuse me, it's closest to your, oh God, brain, work, 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 work. It's like your default or like your immediate knee jerk reaction. When it's psychological, you may find the point where you're able to stop and reason. But physiological is basic. Like an example of a physiological need, needing to use the restroom, right? Um, you can hold yourself. You have complete control over your bladder. But once your bladder is entirely too full, naturally, without any ability, you cannot hold yourself. We'll put it like that, right? The minute it is way too full and beyond your capacity to hold it, you can't. There's plenty of people that when they're holding themselves and they cough, they cannot control that once they pee. Okay. When I was pregnant, it was a real bad thing. It was terrible. Aaron's pregnancy was the worst. I would pee on myself all the time. Literally no control, physiological. I mean, you have a level of control over it, but once it reaches its capacity, uh, up here, your mind over matter doesn't work there. Okay. So that's why emotional flooding is a physiological uh, reaction. It's one that truly cannot be controlled. It's one that truly can't be controlled because it's on your physiological level, not a psychological level, not a mind over matter level, not something that you can control. That's what physiological is. Going to the bathroom, you cannot control it. Now, I mean, you can. That's what I'm saying. You can control it up to a limit because it is something that is natural and visceral. Visceral means natural. I don't know why I keep using those two together. It's automatic. It is required for the body's function. Okay. So the body will do it if you won't. Okay. Oh, well, you didn't go to the bathroom. You didn't go to the bathroom. Well, we're just going to have to do it for you, is what a physiological need is. That's why both a male and a female, the reason that women are blamed, for getting pregnant is because you can use a condom, you can use birth control, but physiologically there's plenty of women that still get pregnant on birth control. There's plenty of women that just a one little itty bitty sperm, got on them a little bit, and it's a physiological. There's no actual true control methods for preventive, but the body overrides that. That's a physiological thing. Okay. So when somebody affects you on a physiological level, at some point, there is no more mind over matter. The mind can't control that level. Uh, there's a word for this. Give me a second. Indefinitely. I cannot today say, I'm going to drink a bottle of water every hour and I'm not going to go to the bathroom. You cannot, it's impossible, no matter how much you will your mind to do it. So when somebody affects you on a physiological level, and emotional flooding begins to happen, people will look at you and say, control yourself. Control, you don't let anybody take you out of character. And you're like, I'm not. I literally have no control over this portion right here on a physiological level. Men commonly, and not all the time, okay? Women, it's not gender specific, but as a whole, what a lot of men do as their tactics attack on the physiological level. Okay. So then they will say that women have no control over their emotions and they're irrational, when in fact they're cutting off the psychological ability to do mind over matter, the emotional flooding. Okay. So I was looking here at the hierarchy of needs and thinking to myself, okay, but you'll tell people like, when you're in front of certain people, you act a certain way. It's still in a direct correlation to the hierarchy of needs, because without being cut off at that physiological level, when you get around certain people and they're treating you and you're in a safe space, you're meeting all of those needs. The hierarchy of needs is not consistent all the time in different settings. That doesn't mean that the person is fake. Their danger is fake or perceived, because for like borderline personality disorder, anxious attachment, anxiety, uh, avoidant, well, you have avoidant personality disorder and you also have avoidant attachment. I forgot about that. But anyways, um, when you get into these like personality disorders and attachment styles, not all of their fears are real. The person is experiencing a perceived fear of something like anxiety. There's not anything going on. You just perceive that something could be going on because somebody's tone of voice changed, the amount of text they sent changed. It doesn't always have to be real. Then that's when you're in control and you could do that's when you have to start doing some shit for yourself. But most of the time, the person is still real. Their character is still real. They're still nice. They're still sweet. They are still enlightened. Okay. They're just being affected on a physiological level, which is nothing that you can control indefinitely, even if you have some mind over matter. So I started thinking about this in terms of like abusers, and wondering to myself because, when you're sitting and you're reflecting on something that's happened and your role in it and what you could have done differently, right? And examining, what I was actually examining was, are we both abusers? Because there's many times where I said that I was sorry for how I was reacting and then I didn't change. And I would say that I was working on changing, because I thought that this was something that was psychological. Okay. uh they say manipulation is when you say sorry and you don't change. So I know all the times that I've said, I'm sorry I'm reacting this way. I wish I could stop reacting this way. I'm working to stop reacting this way. And what I realized today when I was doing this here, and thinking about physiological needs and the physiological reaction of emotional flooding, I started realizing that the only way that I would ever be able to stop having that reaction is to fully remove myself from the danger, because the reaction is physiological and can only be controlled for so long before the body takes full control. And now you'll say, like, well, that doesn't make any sense, because that, I mean, you still have to think of the thoughts that you say and the things that you do. No, because, like, let's think about it. When you are shocked and you scream and you did, oh shit, I didn't mean to do that. There is a level of not being able to control your reaction. There is. It's still a level of physiological. Your it's a part of your functions. Um this is not to get myself off the hook. This is to get other people off the hook, cuz I think I'm getting tired of seeing people call people fake when there's like an instance or an individual that they deal with that they have these problems. Even abusers, they are fake. Theirs is more intentional though. You know what I'm saying? They're like intentionally being, so we can say they're fake, right? But a lot of the times, you'll see people and you'll call them fake because they have like a select group of people that they act wrong with, and they'll be like, you don't let them take you out of your character. The only way that could actually really happen is if that person completely removes themselves from the danger. This is what I'm coming to realize. There is no such thing when these people are having these reactions like reactive abuse and things like that. It's because they're being cut off at the physiological level. And there really is nothing that you can do but remove yourself from the danger. There is a level of if the danger is real or fake, right? Because I could be experiencing a perceived fear. Of course, you don't want to live in fear either. But if, for instance, you have two people, one has good intentions, the other has bad intentions, and now you're behaving in a certain way with the person that has good intentions because that feeling is still there and that feeling's still the same, that would be, you know, you needing to reach clarity. Of course, if you don't reach clarity and that person's not giving you clarity, well, then of course you'll just have to remove yourself from the perceived danger as well. But the person is still real. Only the fear or the trigger is real or fake. I mean, fake. You know what I'm saying? Excuse me. The danger could be real though. And you could really be in danger and be experiencing something where it's cutting you off at the physiological level. And the only thing that you can do, I know I keep saying it, but it's very important. because there's people today that are emotionally flooding. There are people today that are experiencing reactive abuse. There are people today who are experiencing these things, and it's because they are being affected on the physiological level, not the psychological level. Psychologically, they are fine, they are well, they are aware. And as long as they're in the right environment, um, they move more rationally, because self actualization um, empowers your rationalization. It empowers your cognitive thinking, you know, uh, your acceptance and your morality. Okay. If you're being affected on the physiological level, there's no way that you would even be able to behave morally. That's only something that comes once you have control of your physiological needs and your psychological needs. But a lot of people will see people that are getting cut off at the physiological needs and think that this is a correlation to their psychological and how intact the psychological is. The psychological can only control the physiological for so long, because physiological is visceral. Psychological is something that you can control. So for a prolonged time, this is why there was, on the other hand, I forget who, there's like a, for anxious attached people, there's an Instagram where they, on one hand, the anxious attached individual is responsible for their reactions. Okay. But on the other hand, if they're not getting the right needs met as a result of controlling it, they can slip back into that habit. And the reason they slip back into that habit is because it's a psychological reaction. It's a physiological reaction, not a psychological one. I'm completely sane. I'm getting cut off at the lowest level of needs. And I say that for myself and others. I beat myself up a whole lot about being unable to control the emotional flooding, but it's because it's a physiological need and it's nothing different. Oh gosh. My sister, all right, birth sister, oldest sister on my mother's side, okay? She once told me, the brain is no different than any other function in your body, okay? You don't know what kind of shit you're going to shit today, all right? She said, you don't know if you're going to go in the bathroom and it's diarrhea. You do not know if it's going to be nice and solid or you need some oil, okay? So the brain is the same, where, your levels change, serotonin and all those things change. All right. Those are physiological and something that sometimes you can control on medication or things of that nature. But for instance, I was on medication for a whole year. I stopped taking it. And the reason I stopped taking it is because I was led to stop taking it, and I got a letter and it was tampered with. And that pharmacist no longer works there, by the way. But it was tampered with. I got a letter and I stopped using it, but they were about to take me off of it anyway because I wasn't showing any signs of change. Why? Because I was still being cut off at the physiological level, but I didn't understand that day. I didn't understand that yesterday. And I even talked about it because we were talking about Drake's lyric, playing mind games when you saying things. Playing mind games, we're both doing the same thing. No, those mind games start to ruin the physiological, make you feel unsafe and have a reaction from the physiological level, meaning there is no control over it. And you can only control it for so long. You can't control how you're gonna shit today. I mean, but you can. Look, you can. By what you intake, right? If you eat the right foods, then you can pretty much guarantee you're going to poop a certain amount of times, and it's going to be a certain consistency, okay? But if you were to purposely eat some moldy food, you can expect to have an illness, right? So you can fuck around with the physiological level on your own. But when it comes to someone being the cause of that, being in a relationship with someone who's harming, any type of relationship, parents do it too, okay? Uh, Cutting off that physiological need and messing with that physiological need, that's the only thing you could do is get away from them. So, I hope that made sense, you know? Um, but most of those people that you're seeing like that, they aren't fake. They're likely not safe, and the lack of safety can be perceived or real. I think I titled it "It Can Be Real or Fake," but really perceived. And a perception can come from an experience. So you could have a very similar experience, for instance, PTSD, and now every single time you hear a motorcycle, you get freaked out because of gunshots. That's a perception, just because they kind of sound similar. But note that a lot of people, regardless of if it's real or fake, they're still already messed up at that physiological level, so they keep responding to it the same way. Even though they'll be like, okay, I'm really working on this. I really want this to stop, and I'm going to work on it. But being exposed to it multiple times, regardless of if it's real or fake, does not stop anything. You could know it's not real, and it doesn't stop anything, because where you've been affected at is at that physiological level, and you can only control that so much with mind. It's visceral, it's natural. It's just like if I drank 6 bottles of water and tried to sit here for 3 hours, the chances of me actually losing control of my bladder and peeing on myself is very likely, no matter how much I want to stop doing it. Oh, there's been you know and so I did miss something here I was trying to say, and I think I went off on a tangent with it. Let me see if I can and draw the thought back. I already said that. The only way to get away from it is to just like avoid it, go into avoidance. Oh, right? To stay away from it. Like the only way that a person could stop doing that stuff that you keep blaming them for and telling them that they're a bad person for, and don't let people take you out of your character, because it is on the physiological level, whatever's happening that they're responding to. The only thing that they could do is just stay away from it. But if you're willing to not do that, then things could probably work out. And then you wouldn't call me crazy, because I'm not crazy. This is a physiological level, which has nothing to do with the psychological. And that's still not the point that I was trying to make with this shit. Oh yeah. Um, it was the manipulation, right? Okay. So, people have said I'm manipulative, um, because I've apologized for this visceral reaction to danger, perceived or real. It's on a physiological level and can only be controlled by the psychological for so long, that now I look manipulative every time I apologize for reacting to the danger, because I still haven't gained control of it. So somehow, like, I'm the bad guy and I'm the manipulative one, when I'm literally controlling it to the best of my ability, and the environment is not conducive to being able to be in psychological control. So, one of two things can happen. The environment can become more conducive to the psychological, or I'll have to leave the environment. And when I leave the environment, I am once again in control to an extent. Because then you have to wait for the system to reboot and come out of it. So I'm working on that part now. But I don't want anybody else to beat themselves up for this shit. Don't beat yourself up anymore. You actually did the best that you could, okay? Your reactions are much like that of when someone hits you and you scream, you know? And it's just like, oh, you most of the time you do not mean to do it. It just comes out, you know? You step on your cat. Yeah. Very similar. Very similar. Very natural and not fully your fault. The only thing that you can do is just leave the environment, and that's what you're in control of. That's the only thing that you'll be able to control in this situation. Have a good day.